This is a read aloud for Come Away, Come Away. As usual, another excerpt from the novel Peter and Wendy. I always recommend it's best to read the novel in its entirety, but you know what? This is the game of schooling, so be it. You read parts of stories. Keep in mind, we are focused. The standard of focus for this unit is themes. So here are just some themes. You know, there's always more. So as you're reading this, it's about friendship, perseverance, compassion, honesty, responsibility, cooperation. At the same time, keep in mind, always remember TAPS. Right here, the authors tell you exactly what this is, fantasy. So this is a fun story. Okay, hopefully it doesn't put you to sleep. If it does, then don't read it again. So TAPS, what is the theme? So we just talked about that. There are common themes. Check those out. Audience, who is this written for? Anybody who likes fun stories. Simple as that. Or learning lessons. Purpose, it is not to inform. Sorry I put the star there because we read so much informational text now. But this is definitely to entertain. Right there. Have fun with that. And then structure sentences. Let's check this out. So remember, it's a part of a story. That's what this word means, excerpt. Part of a story of the book. So read the book if you like this. Let's scan out. Let's see how many pages there are. This is going to take forever. Next part. That's informational social studies. That's to inform. Oh gosh. So let's get going because there's so many paragraphs. How many paragraphs are there? There are 43. Okay, let's do this. 43 paragraphs. And tons of dialogue. Look at all the quotes. See the quotation marks? Okay, a lot of back and forth, a lot of pictures. Let's just get going. Otherwise, it's going to be like 4,000 minutes. Here we go. By J.M. When you see this for an author, this is protect privacy. Okay, so J.M. B. We'll just keep it with the letter B. The well-known character, and I'm going to do this because my hands are sticking to the paper because it's so hot in here. The well-known character, Peter Pan, the adventurous boy from Neverland who refuses to grow up, first began his literary life in a 1902. Whoa, we are talking like way longer than anybody's alive in this room. Novel for adults. Then he found fame, or even on planet Earth. Then he found fame in 1904, a play called Peter Pan, which was turned into a successful children's fantasy novel, Peter and Wendy, in 1911. So they're just giving you background of this. Okay. Next came a Broadway musical. Now they're super rich. A TV movie, even richer. An animated film, even super rich, billions, about Peter, which made his character even more popular. In this chapter, early in the novel, Peter and the fairy Tinkerbell, my daughter loves Tinkerbells, fly into the bedroom of a young girl named Wendy. Just got hungry, darling, who lives in London, England. They are in search of Peter's shadow, which they left behind on a recent secret visit. Note, how the narrator in the following passages from chapter 3 sometimes interrupts the storytelling, addressing the reader directly. Ooh, that's actually very important. So check this out. Keyword narrator. Remember, narrator is storyteller. So somebody jumps in the story like magic. And they just say stuff. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you get lost, whatever. I'm just kidding. Just read it again. Talk it out with somebody. Paragraph 1. Paragraph 1. Indent. Super long. There he is. There was another light in the room, now 1,000 times brighter than the night lights. Period. And, oh, whoa. Somebody told me once, never start a sentence with and. Just be careful, but this author does. So look, period, and. Go figure. And in the time we have taken to say this, it had been in all the drawers in the nursery looking for Peter's shadow. Rummaged the wardrobe and turned every pocket inside out. It was not really a light, as it made this light by flashing about so quickly. But when it came to rest for a second, you saw it was a fairy. That's a fairy. They're real. Just kidding. no longer than your hand, but still growing. It was a girl called Tinkerbell, who was, big word here, exquisitely gowned in a skeleton leaf. ... So there's more to that story, okay? That means we're going to skip whatever was here and just jump on. Paragraph 2. Page 13. Point to page 13. Check out the picture. Read the caption. Paragraph 2. A moment after the fairy's entrance, the window was blown open by the breathing of the little stars, and Peter dropped in. He had carried Tinkerbell part of the way, and his hand was still messy with the fairy dust. Paragraph 3. Tinkerbell, he called softly, after making sure that the children were asleep. Tink, where are you? She was in a jug for the moment and liking it extremely. She had never been in a jug before. Oh, do come out of that jug and tell me, do you know where they put my shadow? Boom. Check out the pictures. Tinkerbell, the fairy. Paragraph 5. The loveliest tinkle as of golden bells answered him. It is the fairy language. Fast sentence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. You ordinary children can never hear it. So now the narrator's talking to you. But if you were to hear it, you would know that you had heard it once before. Tink said that the shadow was in the big box. We're going to pick up speed. She meant the chest of drawers, and Peter jumped at the drawers, scattering their contents to the floor with both hands, as kings toss halfpence to the crowd. It's money. Halfpence. In a moment, he had recovered his shadow, and in his delight, he forgot that he had shut Tinkerbell up in the drawer. That's a drawer. Tinkerbell. If he thought at all, but I don't believe he ever thought, it was that he and his shadow, so this talks differently because remember, it was written 100 years ago, when brought near each other, would join like drops of water, and when they did not, he was appalled. He tried to stick it on with soap from the bathroom, but that also failed. A shudder passed through Peter, and he sat on the floor and cried. Next page. Check out the picture. Remember, this is fantasy. Moving on, paragraph 8. His sobs woke Wendy, and she sat up in bed. She was not alarmed to see a stranger crying on the nursery floor. She was only pleasantly interested. Boy, she said courteously, why are you crying? Paragraph 10. Peter could be exceedingly polite also, having learned the grand manner at fairy ceremonies. And he rose and bowed to her beautifully. She was much pleased and bowed beautifully to him from the bed. What's your name? He asked. Wendy M. Angela. Darling. That's a long name. W-M-A-D. She replied with some satisfaction, what is your name? ¿Cómo te llamas? Peter Pan. She was already sure that he must be Peter, but it did seem a comparatively short name. Is that all? Yes, he said rather sharply. He felt for the first time it was a shortest name. Always check out the pictures. Disney, of course, Disney's in this game. Disney released the animated classic Peter Pan in 1953, just a couple of years ago. Paragraph 16. I'm so sorry, said Wendy. I'm not going to say the whole name for time. It doesn't matter, Peter gulped. She asked where he lived. Second to the right, said Peter, and then straight on till morning. What a funny address. Peter had a sinking feeling. For the first time, he felt that perhaps it was a funny address. No, it isn't, he said. I mean, Wendy, thank you for making this name shorter for me. Wendy said nicely, remembering that she was hostess. Is that what they put on the letters? He wished he had not mentioned letters. Don't get any letters, he said. Long word. Contemptuously. Contemptuously. Say that 20 times fast. Paragraph 24. But your mother gets letters? Don't have a mother, he said. Not only had he had no mother, but he had not the slightest desire to have one. He thought them very overrated persons. Wendy, however, felt at once she was in the presence of a tragedy. Oh, Peter, no wonder you are crying, she said, and got out of bed and ran to him. I wasn't crying about mothers, he said rather indignantly. I was crying because I can't get my shadow to stick on. Besides, I wasn't crying. It has come off. Yeah, so there's back and forth here. Then Wendy saw the shadow on the floor, looking so draggled, and she was frightfully sorry for Peter. How awful! Exclamation point, she said. But she could not help smiling when she saw that he had been trying to stick it on with soap. How exactly like a boy! Exclamation point. Fortunately, she knew at once what to do. It must be sewn on, she said, just a little patronizingly. What's sewn? He asked. Paragraph 32. There's his shadow. A couple more pages, you'll see it, and that's the it, because there's the next one. Page 1818. Paragraph 33. You're dreadfully ignorant. No, I am not. But she was exulting, a lot of big words in here, in his ignorance. I shall sew it on for you, my little man, she said, though he was tall as herself, and she got out of her sewing bag and sewed the shadow onto Peter's foot. I dare say it will hurt a little, she warned him. Oh, I shan't cry, said Peter, who was already of the opinion that he had never cried in his life. And he clenched his teeth and did not cry, and soon his shadow was behaving properly, though still a little creased. Perhaps I should have ironed it, Wendy said thoughtfully, but Peter, boylike, was indifferent to appearances, and he was now jumping about in the wildest glee. Alas, he had already forgotten that he owed his bliss to Wendy. He thought he had attached the shadow himself. How clever I am, he crowed. Whoa. Rapturously, or Porsche. Oh, the cleverness. Have fun with that one. Oh, the cleverness of me. It is humiliating to have to confess that this conceit of Peter was one of his most fascinating qualities. To put it with brutal frankness, there never was a cockier boy. Just ask Google. But for the moment, Wendy was shocked. You braggarts, she exclaimed with frightful sarcasm. Of course, I did nothing. There it is. There's the musical. Peter Pan, cartoon, shadow, real deal. On Broadway, which is New York City. 41. You did a little, Peter said carelessly, and continued to dance. A little, she replied with pride. If I am of no use, I can at least withdraw, ... Wendy, he said, don't withdraw. Skip some stuff. One girl is more use than 20 boys. Whoa, let's read that again. One girl is more use than 20 boys. 15 minutes. That was the read aloud for Peter Pan, the novel. Remember, the novel Peter and Wendy. But this one was titled Come Away, Come Away. Enjoy.